Bismillah, alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. We have an exciting show for you today. You see the tie. What's the tie? What's he doing with the tie? He never had a tie. We're going to be talking about the tie. And we're going to be talking about Islam. Submission to who? To your nafs, to your desires, to a man, to a woman, to a monkey? No, to the one who created you. But some people have come to that state. They've acknowledged that there is a creator. There is a purpose why I'm here in this life. But now they want to try to form an agreement with the one who created them and say, you know, I'll submit to you, but you're going to let me still drink. I'll submit to you, and you're going to still let me have my girlfriend. No, it doesn't work like that. And to cover this this is a very important topic, because you want to be successful in life, in this life and the life to come. You know there's going to be a day of judgment. You're going to be judged, and then there's two places to go, the delights of paradise or the hellfire. We want to stay away from that. So let's bring out my next guest to cover this topic, my brother and your brother, Kamal Al-Mekki. Come on out, my brother. Assalamu alaikum. Have a seat. You're here on the Deen Show.
Everybody watch Deen Show. The Deen Show. Deen. Allah, there's only one God, and Muhammad is his messenger. Allah, la ilaha illallah. Allah, there's only one God, and Jesus was his messenger. Allah, la ilaha illallah.
I don't know why I did that. Maybe it's just to break the ice. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum.
Peace be unto you.
Alaikum. Peace be unto you.
Thank you for being on the Deen Show.
It's my pleasure to be on the Deen Show.
This is exciting to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Now, I heard something, or you heard me say something from back there. I mentioned something about tie. I've never worn a tie in the show.
Excellent.
Now, might be somebody who's like, man, Eddie's sold out. What's happening, man? He's imitating the so-and-so. So can you tell us, clear this up, because we want to talk about something that's so important to us. And this is very important also. So let's just clear this up. Is this permissible in Islam to wear a tie?
Okay, yes. First of all, yes, it is permissible.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't want to get in trouble with anybody.
Well, hopefully...
Because I want to do this the right way. We want to do this show, and we want to do everything dressed right, look right, and we want to talk right.
And you look great, if I may say so.
MashaAllah.
Excellent. Well, you know, there's nothing wrong with the tie, yeah? And initially, or historically, the tie had another piece to it that made it look like a cross. So basically, your shirt had two extra buttons here, and then you had a material similar to that of your tie, same design, same pattern, and you would basically button this other piece across, and then when you put the tie on, it looked like you were wearing a cross. So because of that, some kind of hatred and issues developed in the hearts of Muslims, specifically for the tie. But obviously, it's no longer that. So scholars say that there is nothing wrong with wearing the tie because it's become a common piece of clothing. It's not anything that would single you specifically to be belonging to a specific creed or religion, because everybody wears the tie, you know. So there's nothing wrong with it as long as you're not doing it for the sake of imitation. Maybe you're just wearing a normal garment and it's not made of pure natural silk, so there's nothing wrong with it.
But what about imitation now? Now, where some people say you're imitating a certain people, what do you got to say about this?
Well, the scholars have spoken about that, and they said that, you know, imitating where it's not permissible is where you wear something that signifies you belong to a specific belief system or a specific creed. So wearing the yarmulke, for example, would make most people think that you're a Jewish person. Or wear that collar with, I don't know what they call it, but that collar, the priestly collar with a white part in there, would make you look like you're a priest or something like that. Or wearing a cross would make you specifically look like you belong to a certain belief or creed. But wearing the suit and tie, if you see someone in a suit and tie, even in the Muslim lands, you don't think, is this man Muslim or not Muslim? It doesn't necessarily represent any belief system or religion.
Yeah.
And for that reason, the scholars say it's permissible.
You'd have to take off just the whole suit then. I mean, that just...
Yeah, because sometimes you wear, and I also wear a lot of suits and ties, and I love wearing the suit and tie. And a lot of times people will meet me and they'll say, take off the tie, because then you're resembling non-Muslims. Well, what about the rest of the outfit? You know, the shirt, the pants, the jacket, and the vest, and everything else. So you just have to remove everything. But because it doesn't specifically mean you belong to any certain belief or anything like that, there's no issue with it. Inshallah, this is what the scholars have said.
Okay, so now you guys can continue Eddie's Eddie and he hasn't sold out to Freddie, and everything's all good and steady. So here we
Excellent.
So, all right, so let's go on to the topic. We need to submit, and we need to do it how the Creator wants us to do it. But there's some people that now they want to submit, which is something natural, to submit to the one who created you and do the beautiful things that he's called you to do, and then get that beautiful thing that money can't buy, peace.
Yes.
But now, some people want to barter now. They want to start playing games. Talk to us.
See, well, first of all, you look at Islam, and Islam comes from the root istislam, which means to submit. And it's funny that you want to enter the religion of submitting, but you don't want to submit 100%. That's why people laugh at the oxymoron or of saying, I'm a non-practicing Muslim. Because the Muslim is the one who submits to his Creator. So if you're a non-practicing Muslim, that means you're a non-submitting submitter. Which really doesn't make much sense.
No.
Because we're supposed to submit 100%, we're supposed to submit to Allah, and when Allah says go right, you go right, He says go left, you go left, because that's the attribute of someone who is submitted to the Creator, you know? Just like if you have a student who doesn't listen to a single word the teacher says, teacher can't describe him as being a submissive student, or, you know, or a child, you know, if you have a child who doesn't listen to you, you can't say, well, he's very submissive. So when you submit to Allah, you do what He tells you to do, because He is the Creator, and you are the servant, or you are the slave if you want to be more specific even, you see. So a lot of times you'll find people, and we meet sometimes non-Muslims in the street, and they want to become Muslim, but they have stipulations. So they'll say something like, I'll become Muslim, but I don't want to stop drinking alcohol. Or I'll become Muslim, but I love my pork chop. So I'll be a Muslim, but I'll still eat pork. Or they'll tell you things like, I want to keep doing whatever it is that they want to keep doing because their heart is attached to it. Sometimes there's one person who made so many stipulations, and then he said, I'll become Muslim. I just had to ask him, look, you're forgetting that Islam is about submission.
You've had a lot of these practical situations happen?
Absolutely, and we're going to get to the Muslims as well, because some Muslims have submission issues as well. But some non-Muslims would say, they would have so many stipulations and then say, I'll submit if I can do all these things. And then you tell them, look, this is the religion of submitting to Allah. But you have conditions, and you want to submit only if this happens or only if that happens. And that's not really coming into Islam, not really submitting. Because I always ask people, who is the Lord and who is the servant? You're trying to set down the rules of your own religion now, and yet claim that you're submitting to Allah Azza.
You would, just interesting if I can interject, if you had a boss at work, and a big corporate company, and now you're not going to go and sit there and give them ultimatums and say, I'm going to change the rules. And
or I'll work for your company, but I have to be able to leave at this time, and I can do
Doesn't
that,
work like
and
that.
I take this any time off that I want to. It's going to say, you know what, go, we'll get someone else.
Or the police pull you over and say, you know what, I'll drive on this road if you can make it 60 instead of 40, or...
And you don't have that choice with many things in life, but people are okay with submitting there. I'll tell you, I actually met this guy one time, and he claimed to have an issue with submitting. So you'd think that he's probably a very stubborn guy who doesn't submit to any authority or anything on earth. So he started telling me, I have a problem with submitting to anything or anyone. So I immediately told him, but you do submit. You submit every single day to so many things. And he immediately realized that he submits to the traffic laws, he stops at the traffic light, he does this, he drives at the speed limit, he doesn't do what's illegal, he has to do, certain things to stay out of trouble. So then he is submitting.
That's submitting.
You're submitting. So I told him, but you do submit. And he immediately realized, and he said, yes, you're right.
Because maybe the word, people aren't used to hearing this word, submit.
That's true, and because this exaggerated thing of freedom, you're free to do as you please as long as you don't step on the toes of the majority, which isn't really true, because when you look at society, you'll find so many do's and don'ts in it that you're not really free. And that's why a lot of Muslim scholars and philosophers, they argue that there is no such thing as absolute freedom.
Let's stop right there. So there's no such thing as absolute freedom, and we're going to take a break and be right back on the Deen Show.
Excellent. No speech is better than to do da'wah, to call people to Allah and to do the work.
No speech is better.
No, nothing is better than that.
Is it true that if one person, on Allah giving you the ability to guide someone with Allah's permission, the Creator's permission, that is better than everything in this world?
Better than the whole world and everything that's in it. In another narration, it's better than the best of wealth. But if we really felt that, Eddie, would we not be out giving da'wah?
And this is something that we encourage all the MSAs, all the dawah organizations, the masjids to get this. We want to print more. We give these to the non-Muslims for free. We want our brothers in humanity to become our brothers in faith. We're back with my brother, your brother, Sheikh Kamal Al-Mekki on the Deen Show. You're really not free. You think you're free. Talk to us. That's where we left off.
Yeah, you can't find anyone on earth who is 100% free and has no restrictions, no limitations, doesn't have to follow any law or anything. I mean, there's no such thing as absolute freedom is what people tell you. There's no such thing. And so everything, you know, it comes with its price. And even if you want to imagine some guy out there in the wilderness who has no laws and nothing, he's still bound and he's still a slave. It might be that he's a slave to his own desires. And some people are slaves to their own desires. They follow their desires so much that they can't break away from that. They're just pulled in. So they're even not free when they pursue their desires to the max. They're still not free.
But hold on. Free, there's some song back from Jah, free to do what I want, free what?
There's so many of these songs and it's so many, every commercial is talking about how we love freedom and that's why you have, you know, you get free minutes.
So what are you
here.
talking about now? They're like, what are you talking about? We got songs about freedom, this, that.
I'll tell you something interesting. All right, so I grew up around the world, right? And before coming to the States, immediately before coming to the States, I was in Africa. And it's funny that when I came from Africa to the States, people would always tell me, but you definitely enjoy your freedom more here, right? Like, what are you talking about, all right? No one assigned any number to me when I was in Africa. Nobody took anything from my paycheck. Nobody told me where I could park. No one told me how fast I could drive. Nobody told me how to do anything. It's a mess there. So if you want to argue, even though it is a mess, if you want to argue though, but I was more free there than here. But of course, I mean, I'm not saying let's not have a structured society. What I'm saying is that, you know, people, if you're told that you're free enough times, as many like of your liberties as they take away, as long as you're being reminded that you're free, you may not notice that you're not as free as you think you are, you know. So, anyways, the idea is that nobody is totally free, absolutely 100% free. Everybody submits to one thing or another, whether it be their desires, whether it be man-made laws, whether it be a government or any kind of entity. So we always argue with people that if that's the case, then you might as well submit to your Creator. If you're submitting anyways, submit in the right place, put in the right place, and you get some reward out of that, and you get to paradise as a result of that.
Because you're eventually going to die.
And and you're going to submit to the wrong place anyways. You just change that submission, switch it over, direct it to the right place. Because everybody submits to one thing or another.
So now we're talking about that submission to the, like you said, the right place, to your Creator. But people realizing, acknowledging, because Islam is rational, it's practical, all the proofs and evidences are there. It's not blind faith.
Absolutely,
It backs up everything that you need with clear, authentic evidence. But even people, they realize this, but again, back to what you were saying, they want to continue doing things their way.
Right, and actually in the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, in the 2nd chapter of the Quran, Allah Azza says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu idkhulu fi silmi kaffa. O you who believe, enter into totality, meaning enter 100% into Islam. Not 90%, not 95%, not 98%, but enter 100% into Islam. But like we were saying, you know, people, they have issues with submitting. It could be that their desire, you know, is pulling them in a different direction, so they don't want to submit to Allah. Whatever it is, something that they love of this worldly life too much. And the example, as I always say, even with Muslims, you find Muslims will have submission problems. Like I said, someone who smokes, when he's told that it's prohibited in Islam, it's not allowed to smoke, they try to argue against that. They say, no, it's just disliked, it's not you know, prohibited to smoke. Because he's attached to, you know, he's attached to his nicotine, to his cigarettes. So he wants to argue there because there's the attachment. Somebody else, you tell him, you know, it's not permissible for you to use usury or get a mortgage through a certain system that's not permissible, but they badly want a home, so they start to argue with you. And someone else, or a woman, for example, or a sister doesn't wear hijab, she has no problem submitting when she hears that smoking is haram or prohibited, but then when she hears about hijab, then she starts going into, you know, excuses. But, well, we live in this country, and if I wear hijab, I might be assaulted in the street, so therefore it's probably better for me to not wear hijab. These are all submission problems. And Allah says, submit 100%, no excuses.
So what do we do now? What do we, I mean, is this a dangerous thing now? Is this something that can be fixed? How do we fix it?
Well, yes, it is dangerous, and it can be fixed, of course. And this is, and I like what you said earlier, because Islam is rational and it's reasonable, and Allah will never command you to do something that's an impossibility. That's why one of the definitions of the halal that I like is what Allah permits, but also agrees with you, you know?
It goes with your nature.
Yeah, it goes with your nature. So Allah is not going to command you to do something that just totally goes against human nature, and you find it, you know, distasteful.
It's not like something like a weight that you can't lift. Like someone say, lift 500 pounds, and you can't do it. It's something that the weight that you can lift.
And very few people can lift 500 pounds, just me and a few other guys, you know? So the thing is that, you know, we're in the day and age where a lot of people, they don't want to submit 100%. And we have something that the Muslims do. They do fatwa shopping, you know. When, you know, they find out that this is not permissible in Islam, they keep looking all over the place. They either physically drive to other imams and mosques until they find someone who tells them it's okay, or they go online and they do fatwa shopping online, and then they just add the fatwa to the basket.
Now we're playing, I mean, this is serious now. I mean, this is, you're playing games with the Deen.
I'll tell you, Eddie, it's gotten to the point where some people pray istikhara, which is, how do you translate istikhara into English?
This is like the prayer of guidance?
Yeah, how about I invent the term decisional prayer? Does that sound fancy enough?
Yeah.
All right, so you pray for Allah to guide you. Should I do this or should I not do this? Some people actually pray istikhara to see if they can do something that's haram, you know? Like they want to buy a house through prohibited ways, and they'll pray istikhara to see should I sign the mortgage or not. That's like basically putting some alcohol on the table and then praying 2 rak'at and saying, okay, well, Allah help me. If drinking this alcohol is good for me, then make it possible. And it's right there, you know? You don't make that prayer about something that you know is clearly haram, you know? But that's what's happening now. People are so pulled and drawn, they don't want to submit 100%. And so they have all these colorful excuses for not following and submitting to what Allah commands us to do in the Quran.
Tell us, how do we balance it out? Because it is, I mean, we know that if this Deen would have came upon a mountain, that mountain would have crumbled. Is this correct?
Excellent.
But now, you know, for the new Muslims who are coming into it, we're going to and even Muslims who are starting to turn their life around, and now they look at this as just a lot of rules, and sometimes it can be just overbearing. How do we balance it out where they know that this is out of Allah's love, that He loves us, He wants what's best for us? So how do we balance it out where we don't play the games and we strive to submit to everything that the Creator wants us to do?
And let me work off of answering that question from the verse that you just mentioned, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّا عَرْضْنَا الْأَمَانَةَ عَلَى السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَالْجِبَالِ فَأَبَيْنَ أَنْ يَحْمِلْنَهَا وَأَشْفَقْنَ مِنْهَا. So Allah is saying that we offered this responsibility or this trust to the heavens, the mountains, the earth, and they refused it. And then human beings, they took this responsibility of themselves, this test of life, being tested in this life. Then Allah says, وَحَمَّلَهَا الْإِنسَانِ إِنَّهُ كَانَ ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا. The human being accepted it, and his nature, that he is ظَلُوم, that he is unjust, and jahul, that he is ignorant. And the scholars say that every problem on earth can be traced back to these two sources: ignorance and following your desires. Either you're ignorant or you're unjust because you follow your desire. You know that this is justice, but you want to do something that's unjust because you get some kind of benefit for it. You follow your desire. So every problem, and if you contemplate every problem on the planet, it goes back to ignorance, or it goes back to just someone being oppressive because they're following their desires. Look at wars, look at things that are happening around us. You find this oppression or total ignorance.
Define to us so someone might know, if they don't already, when we say following your desires, what does that mean?
It means basically that you follow whatever you would like to do. For example, you know that, let's just make a simple example, that doing a specific deed is not permissible, you know, but you have the desire to do it. You know that Allah said don't do it, but you have that desire to do it. And so now you follow your desire in doing it. Even if it means, let's say for example, someone might take the money of the orphan, or take the money from a business partner and rob him and be oppressive in that sense. Why? Because he's following his desire, his lust, his love for money. So in that sense, all problems can be traced to one of those two things. Now, it's one of the ways to kind of understand submission as far as it's related to the commands of Allah Azza wa Jal, is that you find that when Allah commands us to do something, when you examine it, you'll either find that it's 100% good or 100% bad if He tells us to stay away from it, or a mixture of the two. So just very quickly, when you look at, for example, worshipping Allah alone and not attributing any partner to Him, right? This is 100% good. There's not 1% of evil in that.
Yeah.
So when Allah calls us to what we call tawheed, worshipping Him alone, we look at it, we see that it's 100% good. Then Allah will warn us of worshipping things along with Allah, which is known as shirk in Islam. So you don't worship anything with Allah, you don't worship anything besides Allah.
That's like worshipping the sun, the moon, a man, a prophet, a saint,
yes,
an angel.
It could be a prophet, an angel, it could be someone really, a saint, a good person, still not worthy of worship.
Yeah.
So now when you look at worshipping things besides Allah, you see that it's 100% evil. And that's why it's so clear to us when we should stay away from it. But then there are things in life that have a mixture of good and bad in them.
Yeah.
And these things, when you look at them and you see which one outweighs the other, you can understand why Allah made it halal or haram, permissible or lawful. For example, alcohol. You know, we know Allah says about wine in the Quran that there's good and bad in it. But the bad outweighs the good. And that's why we can clearly understand why Allah told us to stay away from consuming alcohol, because of all the problems it causes in society, from accidents, from destroying homes, from destroying people's wealth, from getting people to do all other kinds of sins. So we can see clearly why Allah told us to stay away from alcohol or from, you know, wine or whatever intoxicant specifically.
Yeah.
So then it makes sense to us and it's not that hard for us to submit. But now there are sometimes issues where you cannot find the exact reason, not the exact reason, sorry, the exact wisdom as to why Allah forbade it. I'll give you one example. You know, when people go and make tawaf around the Kaaba, when they circumambulate the sacred house in Mecca, they make tawaf counterclockwise. So why not clockwise? I mean, obviously, the reason we do it is that that's how it was taught to us by the Prophet ﷺ. That's the reason. But what's the wisdom for going counterclockwise around the Kaaba and not clockwise around it? And you ask this question to people, most people don't know how to answer, because really there isn't a clear answer. Some people have said that, well, the heart is actually on the left side. Actually, the heart is not on the left side. It's in the middle. The loudest part is thumping on the left. It can be heard on the left. So, but suppose the heart was on my right shoulder. Can I make a left turn? What does that have to do with it? So, suppose the heart is on the left. Is that why we circumambulate counterclockwise? All right, some other people said, well, the earth is spinning counterclockwise. That's why we make tawaf counterclockwise. Well, that could be a wisdom somehow, but suppose the earth spun clockwise. I can't make a counterclockwise turn. So you see, with this issue, we don't know exactly all the wisdoms why we go that way, but we submit.
You have to know when to put your reasoning, logic on hold?
Well, no.
Or put it in its place?
And actually I'm coming to that because a lot of people think that there's a conflict between your intellect, or there could be a conflict between your intellect and what Islam teaches. And it could never be, because your intellect, you know, your good intellect will always agree with what Allah commands. But opinion can disagree with what Allah commands. That's why you find some people, they put their opinion in front of the commands of Allah. And they err, and they make mistakes. And guess who was the first person to do that?
The devil.
Iblis. The first one to do that was Iblis, because he was told, he was given the command, and he put his opinion in front of what Allah commanded him to do. He started to say, I'm better than him. You know, he's created from clay, I'm created from smokeless fire.
Now.
Exactly.
And that's what we see prevalent today.
Exactly. And so your intellect will always agree with the Quran. Sound intellect will agree with Islam. But your opinion can disagree because you follow your desire.
Let's take a break, and we'll be right back.
I came from a science major. When you look at the Bible and it says the earth has four corners, that's wrong.
If any Christian can point out a single unequivocal statement, a single unambiguous statement, where Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, himself says that I am God, or where he says, worship me, I am ready to accept Christianity.
Welcome back to the Deen Show. Okay, my brother, so continuing on. Now, the thing is, we want to use our reasoning, our logic, the tools that the Creator has given us to find out what the truth is, right?
Right.
But at what point do we say, okay, now we have discovered, we've been blessed that, okay, Islam is the way of life from the Creator. At what point do you now put the revelation before your reasoning and balance things out? You understand what I'm saying?
Okay. Well, first I would like to assuage any fears that any non-Muslim might have that you have to blindly do things in Islam. And this is the great thing about Islam, is that everything, the wisdoms are explained as to why you do or don't do something.
Yeah.
There's a logic, there's nothing that's just irrational that you have to do out of the blue, or that you're told, you know, to roll around in the dirt because there's some kind of blessing you'll get from it's nothing like that. And I also will take this opportunity to explain that, you know, in some religions, when they use the word faith, it's totally different than how Muslims use the word faith. Faith, it just means this kind of blind belief, just like closing your eyes and just jumping in. People will tell you, you have to have faith in God. I don't have proof, I don't know anything, but I just have something called faith, which is basically almost like this blind belief. In Islam, Allah calls us to contemplate His creation, to contemplate His book, the Quran itself, to really contemplate it and look at it, that if it was from other than Allah, it would have, you know, flaws, discrepancies, contradictions in it. So this is something that, me personally, I love, that Allah tells us to think, to look, to contemplate. We were never taught, oh, shut off your intelligence and just... That's why one time one of my professors, my biology professor, we were talking about religion, and she said that I have to, like, there are two me. Like, there's one me, the scientific me, and then there's the religious me. And of course, this is a very bad thing to admit to. So I immediately came in with, well, in Islam, you don't have to separate your religious self from your scientific self, because we don't have that conflict in Islam.
Yeah.
You know, you're never told to do something and it goes against logic and it goes against studies and it goes against, you know, rational thought. And that's why, you know, this is a great comfort for Muslims, that you don't have to have the scientific you and then the religious you. And so I shut it off then, and then now, okay, now science is gone and my years of study
You'll
are
see
gone.
that with a lot of the people that practice some religions, yeah?
And it's problematic for them,
Yeah.
you know, because if I understand science and logic and I'm smart, then I have to shut it off just so I could believe in my religion. That means that religion requires no logic, no thinking, no rationale. That's not a good thing.
We as Muslims, we don't have to do that.
We
with
never
Islam.
have that problem.
Okay.
This is the great thing. But I actually wanted to go over real quickly how we can convince someone when it comes to simple issues. And like I said, we encounter this a lot when someone will say, you know, I'll become a Muslim, but I want to keep drinking.
Yeah.
You know? Or I love my beer. Or actually, some people will tell us things like, I want to become Muslim, but I love pork chops too much. You know. And sometimes we make them realize what they're saying, because really what they're saying, it's something very shameful, you know. So we actually make them aware of what they're saying. And this is something we actually do. We'll tell someone.
Tell us.
We'll tell them this. Look. So someone will say, look, I really love my pork chops. That's the only reason I can't become Muslim. So you believe that there's one God, one Creator? Yes. The Prophet *SAW is his Prophet and his Messenger? Yes. You're okay with the 5 pillars and everything else? Yeah, absolutely. So the only thing stopping you is that you love pork chops too much? So yes. So actually guilt them out of it, because it's very shameful. We'll tell them, listen. So Allah is the one who gives you everything that you have. Your health, your intelligence, the provision, the work, the job that you have, your family, your loved ones. Things that you cannot put a price on. Your eyesight, you know, your hearing, all these things. And every minute and every day He is keeping you in good health. How many days you could have woken up sick? How many potential accidents could you have had? And none of that happens to you. And then He gives you of so many kinds of juice that you can drink, so many kinds of meat. You know, you can eat all kinds of things from the sea, seafood, all kinds of fish, all kinds of birds, and you've got cows and sheep and goat, and you've got all these things. And He's given you so many different kinds of blessings and fruits and vegetables. And the human being can go without drinking for 3 days and without eating for 30 to 41 days. And you know, you can go through so much and survive so much, you know, physically. And you're telling me that this great Creator who provides so much for me, I won't enter His religion, I won't submit to Him because I love pork? And you know, when we do that, but at this point they're looking at the ground, they're like, of course I can leave pork. There's so many other things. Okay, let's do this, let's become Muslim. So it works very well for us, alhamdulillah.
We're going to have to cut out so little time. We have so much to cover. We're going to have to, inshallah, have you back again. Some closing comments and advice for those who are going through some of these things that we just tackled in this show.
Well, you're not alone, and every problem and every obstacle that you encounter, someone else went through it. And a lot of times when someone would say, I can't leave pork, I would bring them my brother-in-law and say, look, he said his problem was he couldn't become Muslim because of pork. Then we asked him right in front of the person. He went through the same issue. Is pork an issue now? Like, I never think about pork. Every problem you're going through, someone went through it before and they overcame it. Because Allah will never ask for you to jump over a mountain or an insurmountable like obstacle. So everything that you're going through, someone went through it and they made it over that obstacle, and you will yourself, inshallah.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
May Allah, the creator of the heavens and earth, reward you for being with us.
Jazakallah khair.
Wiyakum. I hope you got the benefit. I surely did. And all those who are sincerely, humbly trying to learn the truth, this should go down easy. And we would love to have you back with us again here on The Deen Show, same time, same channels. Check the show times at TheDeenShow.com to see when we air on the TV. And also, you can view all of our shows at TheDeenShow.com. We have some good news for those of you who aren't able to watch some of the videos and you love traveling in your car, you have your iPods. We now have the TheDeenShow.com blog, and there you can get our shows, the Deen Show radio show on the podcast, and you can download it, share all of our shows with the world, help your neighbors understand this beautiful way of life of peace, that peace that you get when you humbly and sincerely submit, not to your desires as we talk about on the show, but to the one who created you, who's given you everything. And he's going to give you more, and you'll be successful in this life and the hereafter. So those are some of the things that we have. Continue to come back, and we'll see you next time, inshallah, God willing, again here on The Deen Show. Until then, peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.